My mother's nurse called me at work. Your mom's doing much better than expected. The pneumonia has cleared completely. Doctor says she can manage on her own now. I stood in the parking lot of my office building holding my phone, not quite processing the words. I'd been in Boston for 3 weeks taking care of her. I'd planned to stay another month. But she was better. I could go home. I called my husband immediately. It went to voicemail.
Hey Damien, great news about Mom. I'm catching a flight home tonight. Should be there by 10. Love you. I texted him the same information. He didn't respond. I told myself he was in a meeting. I booked the next flight to Seattle and started packing. That's when I realized I hadn't heard from him in 4 days. No calls, no texts, just silence. Something felt wrong. My name is Sophia Brennan. I've been married to Damien Brennan for 6 years. We bought a house together in Ballard 3 years ago. Blue Craftsman with a big front porch. The kind of house we'd talked about having kids in someday. Damien worked in tech sales, made decent money, traveled occasionally for work. When my mom got sick, he'd been supportive. He'd driven me to the airport, kissed me goodbye, told me to take all the time I needed. The first week I was gone, we talked every night. The second week, the calls got shorter. By the third week, he was barely responding to texts. I'd attributed it to him being busy. Now, sitting on the plane back to Seattle, I wondered if I'd been wrong. I landed at SeaTac at 9:45 p.m. I took a rideshare home instead of asking Damien to pick me up. I wanted to surprise him. The house was dark when I arrived, except for the living room windows. I could see the TV flickering. I smiled, imagining him waiting up for me, maybe with flowers or takeout from my favorite restaurant. I paid the driver and pulled my suitcase up the front steps. I still had my key. I unlocked the door quietly, planning to surprise him. Then I stepped inside and stopped breathing. Everything was different. The furniture I'd picked out, the couch we'd bought together, the coffee table I'd refinished myself. All gone. In their place was sleek, modern furniture I'd never seen before. Black leather sofa, glass tables, abstract art on walls that used to hold our wedding photos. I stood in the entryway trying to make sense of what I was seeing. That's when I heard her voice. "Babe, can you grab the wine from the kitchen?" A woman walked out of our bedroom wearing one of my robes. She was younger than me, maybe 25, with long, dark hair and the kind of casual confidence that comes from feeling completely at home. She saw me and froze. We stared at each other for 3 full seconds. Then she said, "Who are you? Did Damien give you a key?" I couldn't form words. My brain was trying to process too many things at once. This woman, in my house, wearing my robe. Calling my husband babe. She took a step backward. "I'm calling Damien. He said nobody else had access to this house." She pulled out her phone. I found my voice. "This is my house. I live here. Who are you?" She looked confused now instead of defensive. "What do you mean your house? I live here, with my boyfriend Damien." I shook my head. "Damien is my husband. This is our house. We bought it 3 years ago." The woman's face changed, confusion to suspicion to something like fear. "That's not possible. Damien's not married. He told me he bought this house last year after his divorce was finalized." I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. I showed her a photo of Damien and me at our wedding, another of us in front of this house the day we closed, another from last Christmas in this living room with the furniture that was no longer here. She stared at the photos. Her hand went to her mouth. "Oh my God! Oh my God, he lied to me!" Damien walked out of the kitchen holding 2 wine glasses. He saw me and dropped them. They shattered on the hardwood floor we'd refinished together. Red wine splattered across the white rug that wasn't ours. He went completely white. "Sophia, what are you doing here?" I gestured around the room. "I live here. What are you doing? What is all of this?" The woman turned to him. Damien, she says this is her house. She says you're married to her. Damien's eyes darted between us. Kira, let me explain. Kira. Her name was Kira. The woman wearing my robe in my house had a name. She stepped away from him. Is it true? Are you married? Damien ran his hand through his hair. The gesture was familiar. He did it when he was cornered. It's complicated. I laughed. It came out harsh and sharp. It's not complicated. We're married. Legally married. Currently married. I've been in Boston for 3 weeks taking care of my mother, and you moved your girlfriend into our house. Kira looked around the room like she was seeing it for the first time. You told me you bought this house. You told me to redecorate however I wanted. You told me your ex-wife took everything in the divorce and you were starting fresh. Damien held up his hands. Kira, baby, please. She cut him off. Don't call me baby. Answer the question. Are you married to her right now? Currently, legally married? Damien didn't answer. That was answer enough. Kira made a sound like she'd been slapped. I moved in here 2 weeks ago. You helped me cancel my lease. You said we were building a life together. I felt something cold settle in my chest. 2 weeks ago? You waited until I was gone exactly 1 week before moving her in? Damien finally found words. Sophia, you have to understand. Things between us have been dead for months. I was going to tell you. I was going to file for divorce. I looked at him carefully. So you thought you'd just replace me? Replace the furniture, replace the wife, keep the house? Kira was scrolling through her phone now. I have texts from you. You told me this house was yours. You said your divorce was final in January. You said your ex-wife moved to California. She looked at me. Did you move to California? I shook my head. I've been in Boston taking care of my sick mother. Damien knew exactly where I was and when I was coming back. Kira's hands were shaking. I spent $12,000 redecorating this house. You told me it was our house. You told me to make it feel like home. She turned to Damien. Where's her furniture? The stuff that was here before? Damien didn't answer. I asked the same question. Where is our furniture, Damien? Where are our wedding photos? Where's the couch we picked out together? He mumbled something. I couldn't hear it. What? His voice was louder, defensive. Storage unit. Everything's in a storage unit. I was going to figure out what to do with it. Kira laughed. It was a terrible sound. You put her furniture in storage and had me redecorate. Like she never existed. Like your marriage never existed. I pulled out my phone and called someone I never thought I'd need to call. Seattle Police, non-emergency line. How can I help you? I kept my voice calm. I need to report a situation. I returned home from a trip to find someone living in my house without my permission. My name is on the deed. I never gave anyone permission to move in. The operator asked for my address. I gave it. She said officers would be there within 20 minutes. I hung up. Damien's face went from white to red. You called the cops? Are you serious? I nodded. Completely serious. Someone is living in my house without permission. That's trespassing. Kira stepped toward me. Wait, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know you existed. He told me this was his house. I believed her. The devastation on her face was real. She said officers would be there within 20 minutes. I hung up. Damien's face went from white to red. You called the cops? Are you serious? I nodded. Completely serious. Someone is living in my house without permission. That's trespassing. Kira stepped toward me. Wait, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know you existed. He told me this was his house. I believed her. The devastation on her face was real. I know you didn't, but this is still my property and I need documentation of what happened here. I looked at Damien. You committed fraud. You told her she could move in. You helped her break her lease. You let her spend $12,000 decorating a house you don't own. Kira sat down on the black leather couch that wasn't mine. I signed a 6-month sublease release. I can't get my apartment back. Damien said we'd live here together, maybe get married next year. She looked at him with something like horror. You were planning to marry me while already married to her? Damien tried again. I was going to divorce Sophia. I just needed time to handle it properly. I walked through the house while we waited for the police. Every room had been changed. Our bedroom had new furniture. The guest room where I kept my office was now a gym. The kitchen had new appliances, new dishes, everything coordinated in black and white. In the closet, my clothes were gone, packed up somewhere, probably the same storage unit as the furniture. Kira had unpacked completely. Her clothes filled the space where mine used to hang. I took photos of everything. When I came back to the living room, Kira was crying. I can't believe this is happening. I thought I finally found someone stable, someone honest. She looked at me. How long have you been married? I said, 6 years, together for 8. She shook her head slowly. He told me he'd been single for almost a year. He said his divorce wrecked him emotionally, but he was ready to try again. Damien sat down heavily in a chair that used to be in our dining room. I'm sorry, to both of you. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. I stared at him. How did you mean for it to happen? What was your plan exactly? He didn't have an answer. The doorbell rang. I opened it. 2 police officers stood on my porch, a woman and a man, both looking professional and slightly bored until they saw the scene inside. I invited them in. They asked for identification from all 3 of us. I showed them my driver's license with this address. I showed them the deed to the house with my name on it. Damien's name was also on the deed. We owned it jointly, but mine was listed first. The female officer, whose name tag said Ramirez, looked at Kira. Ma'am, did you have permission from the property owner to move in here? Kira looked at Damien, then at me, then back at the officer. I thought I did. Damien told me he owned the house. He told me to move in 2 weeks ago. He helped me cancel my lease and move my stuff. Officer Ramirez wrote something in her notebook. And you, sir? She looked at Damien. You're listed as a property owner, but you're also listed as married to Miss Brennan here. Can you explain why you moved another woman into your marital home? Damien's lawyer instincts must have kicked in, because he said, I'd like to speak with my attorney before answering questions. The male officer, whose tag said Chen, looked around the room. We're not arresting anyone right now, but we do need to establish who has legal right to be in this residence. He looked at me. You're on the deed? I nodded. Joint ownership with my husband, but I never gave permission for anyone else to live here. Officer Chen looked at Kira. Do you have a written lease or rental agreement for this property? Kira shook her head. No, Damien just said I could move in. He said it was our home. Officer Chen made a note. Without a written agreement and without permission from both property owners, you don't have legal standing to occupy this residence. Kira started crying harder. I don't have anywhere to go. He made me cancel my lease. Officer Ramirez's expression softened. That's a separate civil matter you'll need to address, possibly through small claims court. But for tonight, you can't remain in this property without the owner's explicit permission. She looked at me. Ma'am, are you willing to allow her to stay tonight while she makes other arrangements? I thought about it. This woman was a victim too. Damien had lied to her just as much as he'd lied to me. She can stay tonight, but I want it documented that she's only here temporarily with my permission. Officer Ramirez nodded. We can do that. She looked at Damien. And you, sir? I said. He can leave. I don't want him here. Officer Chen raised his eyebrows. It's his property too, ma'am. We can't force him to leave his own home. I'd been expecting that. Then I'll leave. But I'm taking photos of everything first, and I want this incident documented. Officer Ramirez assured me they'd file a report. I spent the next 30 minutes photographing every room, every piece of furniture, every change Damien had made. Kira sat on the couch the entire time, staring at nothing. When I finished, I grabbed some clothes from the storage unit keys I found in Damien's car. He'd left them in the cup holder like an idiot, and called my friend Ashley. She said I could stay with her as long as needed. Before I left, Kira stopped me. "I'm sorry, I really didn't know." I nodded. "I believe you, but you should know he's capable of elaborate, sustained deception. Whatever he told you about anything was probably a lie." She wiped her eyes. "I'm going to file a report against him. He committed fraud. He made me cancel my lease based on false promises." Officer Ramirez had been packing up, but paused. "You can file a report at the station. We can't guarantee charges will be filed, but you have the right to document what happened." Kira stood up. "Can I do it now? I don't want to spend another night here." Officer Ramirez looked at her partner. Officer Chen shrugged. "We can take her statement at the station if she wants." Kira grabbed her purse. "I want to. I want everything he did on record." She looked at Damien. "You destroyed my life. You made me homeless. You lied about everything. I'm not just going to walk away." I watched her leave with the officers. Damien sat in the chair looking smaller somehow. I grabbed my suitcase and headed for the door. He said my name. "Sophia?" I stopped but didn't turn around. "Don't contact me. My lawyer will be in touch on Monday." He tried again. "I didn't mean for you to get hurt." I turned around then. "You moved another woman into our house while I was taking care of my dying mother. You replaced our furniture. You erased me from our home. You told her you were divorced. What part of that wasn't meant to hurt me?" He didn't have an answer. I walked out and didn't look back. I filed for divorce on Monday morning. Damien tried to contest it. My lawyer sent him the police report, the photos of the house, and a detailed timeline of his fraud. He signed the settlement agreement 3 days later. I got the house. He got the debt from Kira's redecorating expenses. The divorce was final in 5 months. Kira did file charges against Damien. The prosecutor declined to pursue criminal fraud charges, but she filed a civil lawsuit for breach of contract and fraudulent inducement. She sued him for the $12,000 she'd spent on furniture, the penalty she'd paid to break her lease early, and emotional distress. I heard through mutual friends that they settled out of court. Damien paid her $28,000. 6 months after the divorce was final, I got a message on LinkedIn from Kira. "I wanted to thank you for not pressing charges against me that night. I was a victim too, but you could have made things much harder for me. Instead, you gave me space to figure things out. I got a new apartment. I'm in therapy. I'm rebuilding. I hope you're doing the same." I messaged her back. "I am, and I'm glad you're okay. What he did to both of us was calculated and cruel. I'm sorry you got caught in it." She responded, "I'm sorry I unknowingly participated in it. For what it's worth, I really thought he was divorced. The way he talked about his ex-wife, the way he'd removed all evidence of her from the house, I never questioned it. I should have." I thought about that. How convincing Damien must have been, how thoroughly he'd erased me from our home to sell the fiction to Kira. How easily we all believe what we want to believe. I wrote back, "He counted on that, on both of us trusting him. That's what makes what he did so much worse." Kira sent one final message. "Agreed. I hope you're healing, and I hope he never gets the chance to do this to anyone else." I hoped that too, though realistically, I knew men like Damien don't change. They just get better at hiding. I sold the house 8 months after the divorce. I couldn't live there anymore. Every room reminded me of what I'd lost. Not Damien, but the life I'd thought we were building. I bought a condo downtown, smaller, modern, nothing like the craftsman we'd shared. I decorated it exactly how I wanted. Bold colors, eclectic art, furniture that made me happy instead of furniture chosen by committee. My mother recovered completely and came to visit for Thanksgiving. She loved the new place. She said I looked lighter, happier. I realized she was right. Ashley asked me once if I regretted calling the police that night, if I wished I'd handled it differently. I thought about it carefully before answering. No, I needed documentation. I needed proof that I'd come home to find someone living in my house without permission, and Kira needed to understand that she was a victim too, not a willing participant in Damien's deception. Ashley nodded slowly. You could have been angry at her. A lot of women would have been. I shook my head. She didn't know I existed. Damien made sure of that. Being angry at her would have been misdirected. The person who deserved my anger was the one who lied to both of us. I ran into Damien once, about a year after the divorce. He was at a coffee shop in Capitol Hill with another woman, younger than Kira had been. They were laughing about something. He saw me and went quiet. I nodded politely and kept walking. I didn't feel anger or sadness or anything, really. Just a kind of distant curiosity about whether he'd told this new woman the truth, or if he was running the same playbook. I hoped for her sake it was the former, but I suspected it was the latter. Some people don't learn from consequences, they just learn to hide better. Kira and I never became friends exactly, but we stayed in touch periodically. She sent me a message when she got engaged 2 years later to a teacher she'd met through a friend. He's never been married, has no secret lives, and introduced me to his entire family on our 3rd date. Revolutionary concept. I smiled and sent congratulations. She wrote back, "Thank you for showing me what happened that night. I know it destroyed your life too, but at least we both got out before it got worse." I thought about that. Before it got worse. Like there was some alternate timeline where I hadn't come home early, where Damien had successfully maintained his double life, where both of us had stayed trapped in his deception longer. People ask me sometimes how I knew to come home early, if I'd suspected something. The truth is, I hadn't. My mother got better and I wanted to see my husband. It was that simple. Pure coincidence that I'd walked into his carefully constructed fiction before it was fully realized. Pure coincidence that Kira and I discovered each other when we did, but I'd stopped believing in coincidences. I'd started believing in instinct, that feeling I'd had on the plane that something was wrong, that silence from Damien that I'd tried to rationalize as him being busy. My gut had known before my brain caught up. I learned to trust that instinct. When something feels wrong, it usually is. When someone's story doesn't quite add up, there's usually a reason. When a man tells you his ex was crazy or controlling or impossible to live with, it's worth asking yourself if that's the truth, or if it's just the narrative he needs you to believe so he can justify what he did to her, and what he might do to you. Damien had probably told Kira I was emotionally distant or unsupportive or any number of things that would explain why our marriage failed. None of it would have been true, but it would have served his purpose. It would have made Kira feel special, chosen, different from the defective previous model. The friend who'd told me about Damien's settlement with Kira also told me he'd left Seattle entirely, moved to Denver for a new job. Fresh start. Clean slate. I wondered if he'd told people there he was divorced, if he'd erased me from his history the same way he'd erased me from our house. Probably. That seemed to be his pattern. Eliminate evidence of the past, construct a new narrative, move forward like nothing before matters. It's an effective strategy if you don't care about truth or consequences or the people you leave behind. But here's what I learned. Houses can be redecorated, but that doesn't change who owns them. Furniture can be replaced, but that doesn't erase who chose the original pieces. Lives can be rewritten, but the truth doesn't disappear just because someone hides it. I walked into my house that night and found someone else living my life. But she wasn't living my life. She was living Damien's fiction. And the moment we both saw the truth, the fiction collapsed completely. That's the thing about elaborate deceptions. They only work if everyone stays in their designated compartment. The moment the compartments intersect, everything falls apart. I didn't destroy Damien's relationship with Kira. I just existed in the same space at the same time and let reality do the rest. I didn't get revenge. I got my house back, my life back, and the clear understanding that someone who can erase you that completely while you're caring for your sick mother is not someone worth staying married to. Kira got that same clarity. Different circumstances, same realization. We were both better off for knowing the truth, even though the truth destroyed everything we thought we had. Because what we thought we had wasn't real, and sometimes the kindest thing reality can do is show up uninvited and expose the lies before they become permanent. I didn't plan to come home early that night, but I'm grateful I did. Not for the confrontation or the heartbreak or the divorce, but for the moment when Kira and I looked at each other and simultaneously understood we'd both been deceived. That moment of shared recognition saved us both from years of additional lies. That's not revenge. That's just opening the door at the right time and letting the truth walk in.
You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.